We're here at the Columbia Global Center in Rio. It's a pleasure to have as our guest this morning Professor Ansaf Salleb, a lecturer in computer science at the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Columbia University, who was on her very first trip to Brazil. She's a lecturer in a number of fields which are quite popular at the moment, and actually have been for quite some time, but now we have a greater focus on them: artificial intelligence, machine learning, and even other fields. So Professor Salleb, thank you very much for agreeing to participate in this podcast. It's a way for us to reach lots of other people who didn't have the pleasure of hearing you speak here in the conference in Rio. So welcome to Rio.
Thank you very much, Tom, for having me over. It's a pleasure to discover Rio for the first time and to meet you and your team today.
Very, very good.
Thank you.
And I feel like it's on behalf of those who will be hearing you, it's a pleasure that they'll have at least this ability to understand, to get to know you a little better and to understand your field. I wonder if we could start there, Professor. Could you talk to us a little bit about your own background, where you're from, and maybe how you got into this field of artificial intelligence in the first place?
Sure, of course. My background is in computer science. I got interested in computer science very early. I was about 14 when I started computer programming lessons. I enjoyed it very much, and it was my field since then. I'm originally from Algeria. I was born in Algiers. I did my graduate study at the University of Science and Technology, USTHB, in Algeria. After that, I worked two years for industry, but then I decided to go back to school. So I moved to France, where I did a master's, PhD, and postdoc in the mid-90s or so. Afterwards, I joined Columbia University as a research scientist in 2006. I worked on several projects. All of them were connected to AI and to how to discover patterns, rank items. We worked on the power grid. We worked on medical informatics. And then I felt the need to go back to teaching, and I got this position of lecturer in discipline with the computer science department. It has been a pleasure working with so many students, having so many students for projects, and working with students in class.
Very good. It's so interesting to see how you came into the field. Could you tell us, and I wanted to mention as well, you've become very well known internationally as the major lecturer in a Coursera course, EDX course on artificial intelligence. You have no fewer than 150,000 students in that class, so I wanted to make mention that maybe many people have seen you. And in that course, you talk about something that's of great interest, that artificial intelligence is a little bit like the internet was at one time, or .com, or some people think, well, it's a fad, it's something that's just come, it's the latest investment theme, but it may pass. But in your course, you teach us something different, that the origins of what we today call artificial intelligence are actually go back in time. Could you talk a little bit about the origins of artificial intelligence in history and maybe in academia?
Yeah, sure. Actually, AI may have today the hype. It's becoming more and more popular, but it started in the 40s and the 50s. The term was coined in the mid-50s by John McCarthy, who was one of the researchers who organized at the time an event about AI. This was the first event ever about AI, and is knowing more and more interest today because we have better machines, we have more people working on it. But the history of AI is really long. It started with the first systems to translate from Russian to English. It started with the first system that we call expert systems. There were some attempts to use neural networks in the 90s as well. These were used in USPS postal services to translate zip codes from human writing into digits. This worked, but then there is a surge today in using more of those, and this is called deep learning, thanks to progress in computer architecture and thanks to the availability of large amounts of data, and thanks to the interest of many peoples from many disciplines in AI. So progress is going faster today because of the good environment that's present nowadays. And we say that AI is becoming more scientific. We use more probability, we use more data, and we use fancier algorithms today.
But you've touched upon an interesting point. That artificial intelligence is, although you're in the engineering department of a computer science department of a major university, it's a transdisciplinary field, isn't it? Could you talk to us about some of the other disciplines that have made major contributions to the field of artificial intelligence?
Certainly, there are fields like economics, fields like statistics, computer science, computer engineering to design. Autonomous cars today are a possibility thanks to advances in sensoring and that are included in smart cars. So fields like statistics, economics, computer science, and I would like to add today, people are interested from laws, from social science. It's truly an interdisciplinary effort to build AI. People from neuroscience has also tried to mimic the brain or build circuits that include some of the features of the brain, if I may say. Yeah.
And you talked, I think, in a very interesting way of some of the early experiments, I believe, were famous chess masters.
Right,
confronting, I think IBM's machine was called Big Blue, and you mentioned some seminal events in the history. Could you talk about some of those moments in which people realized that computers could do functions that we once thought only humans could perform?
Yeah.
What were some of those
moments? Of course, yeah. I mean, a typical example is games. So as you mentioned, chess. Chess with Deep Blue has been a big event in 1997 or so. Garry Kasparov, the leader, the champion at the time, was defeated by the machine, by the IBM machine, thanks to powerful search algorithms. Then afterwards, there was also Jeopardy 2011, in which humans were defeated by the sister or brother of IBM Watson. So these are also thanks to powerful search algorithms and also powerful information retrieval, natural language understanding of the questions, search and getting back and answering the questions. So, and most recently, 2016, Lee Sedol, who was the champion in Go, which is an ancient game, and it's a complicated game because the number of moves is incredibly large. So. Search algorithms aims to find some solutions in a large space of solutions, and these are in billions in Go. So basically, the machine AlphaGo, designed by Google, was able to just beat the human on that game. So game is an example, but there is also the example of machine translation. That was one of the fields that initiated the field of AI. Americans wanted to translate Russian to English. So the first systems were complete failure, for example. Because they were translating word to word. But today it becomes more statistical. We use the large amount of corpora, parallel corpora in 2 languages, for example, to learn from how to translate from a language to another one. And systems are doing wonderful today, such as Google Translate, that can translate over 100 languages. So translation, I would add to that autonomous cars, but also we probably don't think about it, but AI is embedded in our everyday life. When you use AI to, in your email, you're filtering your spams, you're filtering your emails between spams and non-spams. And there's a machine learning or an artificial intelligence system that's behind to recognize an email as a bad or good one and put it in the right folder. This is AI. Right? It's also used in our use of Amazon, ranking items or commander systems. When you search on Google, you're using a ranking algorithm. This is a machine learning algorithm. In many small applications that are just part of our daily life, we don't realize that there is an intelligent system behind it.
So much of Google is based upon, you do one search and then they sort of learn what you're interested in, and then you get bombarded with suggestions of things that are similar that you might like. Could you just talk just for a moment, Professor, the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? I mean, the two are sometimes interchangeable, but it's a distinction worth making. Artificial intelligence how is that different from machine learning, etc.? What is machine learning?
That's a very good question, and many people are confused by how AI is different from machine learning. The answer for that is that you could see AI as an old AI, so search algorithms, games, problems like constraint satisfaction problems, such as solving a Sudoku, are all kind of search algorithms. And the early systems in AI were meant to solve these kinds of problems. But research is still ongoing in these areas. But then, because as I said, there's more data, there are more smart algorithms and many smart people working in the field of AI, the main drive is a field we call machine learning. So machine learning is designing computer programs that can learn with experience. And this experience can come from simulations, from data, from reinforcement. So because we have data, machine learning is a set of methodologies, a set of advanced methodologies to build this kind of agent that can learn. Right? So before we were searching, we were finding solutions by also designing algorithms. But today we can build these algorithms, but these algorithms has the ability to learn.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'd like to talk a little. We could switch a little bit. Many of our friends at Communitas who will be listening to our podcast, they were concerned with cities and the health and life and growth of cities throughout the world, but here in Brazil in particular. Can you help us think through the relevance of artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data to cities, and how smart cities is the term I think often used, but how should governments of cities, how do they benefit from AI now? What's sort of happening as we look forward in terms of government and the use of AI and machine learning?
Okay, so that's a very interesting and hard question. All right, so in terms of government, I think governments will need to adapt to the AI progress. We will see more and more, AI is ubiquitous, so you would see AI in the street, in cars. You would see AI in smart buildings, in smart everything, smart grid, smart buildings, smart cars. Government's role would be to regulate the use of AI and make sure that there is no discrimination, there is no accident, so that would be by law enforcement and maybe even creating new laws for that govern AI to just make sure that it is going the right way, not harming anybody and not discriminating anyone. So in terms of smart city, I think maybe the biggest revolution will be the use of smart cars or autonomous driving cars. This will make a big difference, in my opinion, and I look forward for them. They will make our ride safer, faster. You will have time to read, you will have time to just not worry anymore about traffic and driving. That would be maybe the most prominent things around the corner.
Or even accidents, right? In driverless cars.
That's right, yeah. Imagine the cars will be able to communicate with each other and will be able to decide real time what to do based on the perception they have from the environment. And so there would be, I think, a big progress, and maybe the kids today won't ever have a driver license.
They're already stopping to drive somewhat compared to the past. How far are we from an era of driverless cars? Does it require major complementary investments in new roads and new sensors and new infrastructure that we're maybe many years from achieving? Or is this technology ready to roll out within a reasonable next 5 years or something like that?
Cars are certainly already a reality, so we do have smart cars. We have the cars. But as you mentioned, infrastructure is behind, and we have to really adapt to involving smart cars in our roads. I don't think it's going to be like next year. I wouldn't say 5 years, but because there is not only the need to adapt the infrastructure, there is also the need to adapt our laws and who is liable with the self-driving cars in the street. So it may take, I don't know if I have to predict, I would say 10 years.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe progressively it could start with cab, driving cars, maybe smaller, slower scale. The car is there. but the adaptation and also the mindset of not driving will take some time. Maybe 10 to 15, I would say, to be conservative.
And that is a very disruptive technology.
It's disruptive.
You can think of all the taxi and Uber drivers, for example, who would be displaced by this, this technology. What about, and thank you very much for that, what about other areas? Much in the news are the Russian hacking of US elections. Artificial intelligence, you say, arose originally because the Americans wanted to understand Russian text, perhaps, and that was a
part of the motivations.
But even today, what are, like, you might say, the national security uses of AI and machine learning? Spying, one might think of, but maybe national defense. Does it really, and I think people can be concerned about this, and rightly so, that does it really enhance the powers of big brother, the government, these technologies? Should citizens fear in any sense what these technologies can be used for? Should governments fear, like in the Russian hacking allegations, governments fear what other governments can do to affect our national security using these new technologies? What's the state of debate there?
I'm pretty sure that the technology is being used. I'm not exactly aware how exactly it's used, but people's data is probably used to make sure that safety of the country and many countries is preserved. But I have to say, it's not really my expertise. So but certainly, data could be definitely used in many ways.
Yes.
And one way is to make sure that no bad event happen or something like that. So it is used in national security. It is used to prevent things from happening, I would assume. But again, this is really, I don't want to speculate on things I don't know about.
Maybe I could just ask one more question about the global diffusion of artificial intelligence and these new technologies. Here in Brazil, in your own native country of Algeria, you can often feel that this sort of fourth industrial revolution, the new digital economy, it's something that's happening elsewhere in the developed countries of the world, and we're in Brazil, to take Brazil as an example, we've got a tremendous amount of ground to make up, and we're falling farther behind. And I know you've only been briefly in Brazil, but is it your experience that AI and machine learning is something for the developed countries right now, or can middle-income countries, developing countries like Brazil, are they using these new technologies? Is it accessible to them? Are there researchers contributing to developments in the field? Do you have any initial impressions from your brief couple of days here with us in Brazil? Yeah,
I do have an initial impression is that there is a lot of interest in AI. People are using it in their smartphone. This is part of the, how AI is spread around the world, but there is definitely an interest in learning about AI and in developing things and startups about AI. I felt that drive that really young people have to use more of technology and AI systems. Yeah, this is definitely, AI does not have to remain in developed country. Developing countries are the most users of AI today, right? So I think it has to be developed all over the world, and everybody needs to have access to that, to the infrastructure, to the skills that are required to understand the systems. So there was a debate on the technology divide that happened with internet, right? Digital divide. It's called the digital divide. But today the digital divide between, let's say, North and South can deepen because it's not only a problem of infrastructure, it's also a problem of skills, understanding how AI works. And this can be, I think, fixed or addressed with better education, developing education in developing countries.
That's exactly what I wanted to turn in these final few moments that we have together this morning. Education, and two maybe questions there. Simply learning about AI and machine learning, how do we improve global teaching? I know you've got your own course on the EDX platform, which is a huge help, but going beyond that, how do we teach how do we improve curricula in schools? Maybe start that way, thinking about countries like Brazil. What's
Sure.
And then well, let's answer that one.
Yeah, sure.
One first.
I think emphasizing computer science courses and programming would be a first part to embed. To start with, including AI curriculum in courses. It could be addressed either online, because many people have access to online courses, and there's a variety of courses at different levels. I would like to mention that proficiency in AI can be variable from person to person, depending on the needs, depending on the expertise. A lawyer would need a different level of understanding AI than someone who is in computer science or is in economics. So so everybody will need to have some fluency, AI fluency. This will depend on people's interest and on people's need in their domains. So I think including more of programming components, computer science curriculum in schools, that would be first. But then engaging them in doing some more math, like linear algebra, doing some more probability. These are the basics or prerequisite to do a larger course in AI. But these all could be done either online. Online is today, I really think that it's a great resource that everybody has at their fingertips, assuming they have the infrastructure.
That anticipates my next question, but you were saying we should all know more. We're never too old to learn more math, some basic programming skills. So in a sense, you're saying you have to eat your vegetables, you have to pay a price, but it isn't beyond and the average person's, the curious person's ability to at least derive some greater understanding of the usefulness of AI, to understand the basic principles and concepts.
Right. For some people, understanding at least at some level, higher level, how it works, what it means, what's the terminology, could be like just enough. But then
I recommend people start with your course, by the way. Let me turn the question around a little bit and ask you on education still. How does the advances in your field, in your view, Professor, affect teaching in the classroom? I mean, does this create new ways, hybrid forms of learning? Is it, at your experience, we can revolutionize teaching that occurs in the classroom using the advances of the new technologies? Or is it still a matter that you've got to have a good professor and one-on-one and could you maybe talk about the use of the new technologies, AI in particular, in the classroom?
So this is a very good question. Across the years, I realized that everybody learns differently. Some students don't need to come to class, and they perform very well because they're just self-learners. And for those, I think, which I don't require presence necessarily in the class, I think that tapping into the online resources is really invaluable. They learn at their own pace. They don't like to read a textbook. They learn by videos or by watching videos or by other kinds of practice. So where AI can have an impact, I think, is in developing more of self-learning systems that can adapt to your needs, your background, and your schedule. That would be maybe the next step for AI impact in education. On the use of technology, AI technology today in classes, I use traditional class lecturing. I like the contact with students. I can use some videos I record, so as some professors use flipped classrooms. They make students watch the videos at home and come to discuss the concepts and do the questions and practice in class, which is a great concept as well. So teaching is still, to some extent, traditional, lecturing and examination, etc. But I imagine that in the future, people will learn the way they want to learn.
Yes.
They don't have to come to class.
Right.
And
Yes.
they have to pick the material they want to learn from.
Yes.
This would be really a big achievement for humanity, I think.
That's a very exciting thought. I mean, what the Columbia Global Centers are trying to do here in Brazil and around the world, it is in a sense to promote dialogue and teaching and research from the great community of scholars at Columbia to touch and interact with scholars all over the world. And we're looking for ways to make that happen, to overcome the barriers of distance in particular.
Right.
6,000 miles away from New York City, but still to connect the teaching and learning environment of Colombia to teaching and learning environments here in Brazil. It's sort of, maybe it's a dream, but you can see it happening in small ways, but hopefully, I don't know if you had any reactions to that, hopefully the future will make it even easier.
Right. The distance barrier will be, broken just thanks to the infrastructure. You can attend classes online, you can, this makes a big difference and make things more scalable.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
But without losing the human contact either. You're interesting to hear you say you prefer to talk to students and look at students in the eye and
right.
And
some need it, some don't. Right.
I just find that maybe if I could finish toward the end and maybe give you a chance to talk about what excites you about the field. We're all excited about the field, and we're kind of on like page in 101 and
right.
just starting to learn about it. You've been in the field for a number of years now. What excites you about the field? What are your research interests? Where would you see yourself going from your research? Where's the research frontier for you?
That's
in ways we can understand.
Yeah, certainly. So what excites me about the field is the endless possibilities. So we know that humanity has made lots of progress in many fields, including healthcare, for example. In healthcare, there is a lot of room for making AI make our health and well-being way better than today. So I think it can be deployed at different levels, from streamlining the process of a physician and nurse taking notes, to maybe helping the physician make diagnostic. Just maybe posing on this point, a physician can see maybe a few thousands of patients per year, right? And read maybe a few hundreds of papers, research papers in medicine. But an AI system can process way more patients from their medical records and can access way more papers because it's a system. And AI is our extension because it has the computational power we don't have, right? So I think AI can supplement. It can be our extension. So it could be the assistant of the doctor in diagnosing a disease. It can help people communicate with the machine if they are shy talking to a human, for example, for private or sensitive topics. So I see lots of potential of AI, in particular in medicine. I'm interested about health informatics in general. I work currently on medical informatics and how we can predict premature birth, for example.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and these are things that are in need. We don't have any system today that can help the physician predict whether a woman is at need to be given interventions. This is an example. So I'm excited about medical healthcare, medical informatics, and education. So I like to see ways in which people can learn better, because learning can be really much more fun than just sitting in a lecture hall, I think. That's my
Professor,
thoughts.
final question is, before I thank you, this is your first trip to Brazil.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your reflections on the country, on its people. Do you want to come back? What kind of impressions can you offer us about your experiences here in Brazil?
I felt it's a really friendly environment. I really loved the city. I loved the touch with people. We had an event happening in the Museum of Tomorrow, which is one of the most beautiful museums I have seen.
Yes.
Yeah, really amazing. And I see people really ahead of their time and with a huge potential. And I would love to come back.
I hope you
Thank
do,
you.
Professor.
Thank you very much
for being with us today.
Thank you for having me over. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.